Hey folks, Michael. Hope you're doing all right. Podcast here. Okay, so the guest and I have been talking for like 45 minutes, so we need to start recording. Damn it! All right, sorry folks. So we were just talking about some things on our own, and we had some good discussion here. We got to record too. So here we go. We're going to talk with some fitness experts, Nick and Isaac. My brother Nick and my brother Isaac. MoveNet brothers from my recent L3 thing in September. I mean, kind of not really my L3 thing, but the L3 thing. MoveNet level 3. So we'll be talking, see how the conversation goes, talking about moving in the outdoors, flow, mindset, fitness, biomechanics. They both work with people, helping them with their, doing some physical therapy and biomechanics stuff. So we'll see if we can get into that if in the limited time we have available, since we've been talking so long already without recording. Okay, so could y'all introduce yourselves really quickly, please? Let's see, alphabetical order. Isaac, go.
Okay, yeah. My name is Isaac. Last name Chilton. Yeah, I don't know what you want to know. I'm a MoveNet practitioner for sure. Working on my level 3 cert, not done yet. So that's a lot of what our conversation was before we started recording.
And you are a structural engineer, right?
Well, so yeah, I mean, the short answer is I teach movement, all kinds of movement. MoveNet is part of it; it's a big part of it, and I also do structural integration. So my focus is on helping people find a better relationship with gravity and helping them feel more embodied. And I feel very passionate about reconnecting people with their essential need to play, which I could geek out on for a long time. But that's what I do, and that's what work with me.
And so people know, yeah, like I said, structural engineer, and hopefully that's not misleading, because not structural engineering of buildings or bridges, but structural engineering of the human body. Yeah,
structural integration.
Yeah.
Is the term. Yeah.
Cool. And Nick, you want to say hi? Nick's back again.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. This is Nick from Virginia. I'm a MoveNet practitioner working on my L3 cert, just like the other two on the call. Still got some more things to do. I am a physical therapist by profession, mainly in outpatient orthopedic rehab. So Isaac and I kind of have a similar professional game going on. I work on getting people back on their feet. Definitely use movement as one of those strategies and interventions to do that. And yeah, I'm here to chit chat about the power of MoveNet and whatever else we can talk about.
And being human, being true to our nature and true to nature.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, shall we continue on and kind of like review the things you've learned from the cert, Isaac, or should we talk about?
Well, I like the direction we were talking about.
Yeah, cool.
We were talking about balance, right? And balancing on a narrow surface.
Okay, and in general, you said after the L3 cert, you learned basically two things. Could you repeat them for folks?
I learned so much. But the two things we were talking about. Yeah,
I shouldn't say only two things. You learned a hell of a lot to infinity and beyond, but two things we were talking about. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, as a movement teacher, I was in that certification as a movement teacher, learning to teach movement at that level, and as a student, learning to grow my capacity through those movements. So I looked at it through those two lenses. I learned so much about teaching movement, and just the two things that we were talking about earlier were the value of being introduced to movement that you're unfamiliar with. So there were many skills. Nick and I both, I think, have said this in our various conversations. We were underprepared for what we were going for, but that was kind of the point.
Me too. Just right? So folks know, I was underprepared in some ways too.
Yeah, and that's kind of how it's structured. That's kind of how the training is structured. And so I learned as a movement teacher, and I do this already to some degree, but now I'm doing it a lot more. Hey, have some tricks up your sleeve that going to pull out during the session as you're training your student where they're like, what? You want me to do what? Because as you grow your capacity in one area, you can sort of extrapolate those skills to other areas, and you learn that it's all about not specializing, right? That's the big thing with MoveNat. Don't specialize.
It's kind of like Bruce Lee, the way of no way. Specializing by not specializing.
100%. And we may think of not specializing in our own practice, but not specializing as you teach, that's huge. So like I may work on one skill with a client or a student, but then I may really unspecialize the session. Like, if you can do that, now let's do this over here. That was the first thing. And the other thing was the surprise of like the go now mindset. Like, okay, we've done enough practice. It's time to go now. Do this now. And so connecting one skill to the next skill, so that a person has to not think. And I think Nick used the term flow. There's a lot of value in that. So teaching people to learn the difference between being patient with themselves because they haven't acquired the skill, to differentiate between that and, oh, now I'm hesitating because I'm fearful. Those are two different waiting styles, right? Am I waiting because I'm being patient with myself because I haven't acquired the skill to do this, the capacity? Or am I waiting because I'm fearful and I'm hesitant? So in my own practice and in working with my students, I've been playing with that a lot.
And one thing I want to point out really quickly, make sure some people don't misunderstand it. While you're saying you're not specialized, that'd be just like playing only tennis or something and not doing the totality of what people should do. That'd be specialization. But when we're specialized, when we're not specialized, when we're generalists, it's still very technique based. It doesn't mean don't specialize and just do whatever the hell. It means don't specialize and do all these different things, but you damn well better get the technique and biomechanics right. That's one thing I want to point out. Learn the biomechanics, learn the technique. Go ahead, what?
Yeah, because then we're talking about pliability in a body, right? And pliability and mindset. So, like, you can specialize as a tightrope walker if you want on tight wire, but can you go from balancing on a very, very narrow surface to powering up over a bar or over a rock or something like that? So there's a lot of pliability that is required of a body, fascial pliability, to go from those two extremes. Not to mention the cardiovascular pliability. I mean, shifting flow one way, then shifting the other way, and training in that way, in an unspecialized way, where you may hone in on one skill and grow your capability in that skill, but linking one skill to another skill that really are not related.
Yeah.
Intuitively is a way of unspecializing.
Yeah. Then one thing with being patient versus going and learning to know the difference reminded me of learning to know the difference between, like, people need to do the difference between pain and discomfort.
Yep.
Pain, stop. Discomfort, no, that's different. Keep going.
Find a way.
Yeah. But, so patient versus go, like pain versus discomfort. But then we were talking about some flow and some balance, and what you were saying about balance.
So one of the things that I noticed on balancing on a narrow surface is it's really tempting to get caught up in the I'll say the interoceptive feelings of balancing, or even the even the vestibular sensations of balancing.
That'd be the internal stuff.
Sure, and let your eyes zone out. I don't know another way to say that. Blur out, I guess is what I'm trying to say. There's so much value in really looking at what you're doing. If you have sight, right? So on balancing specifically, I'm noticing how much vision really plays into it. And I have a lot to say about that, but that's just one thing that helped me kind of turn the leaf with my balancing work. Is I noticed I was kind of zoning out in my vision and not looking at the surface. Now, the point was made in MoveNat 3. If there's a surface, if there is something under the narrow surface that's moving, then you need to look straight ahead. But either way, I think it is healthier, helps you make more progress initially or in the training stage if you really look at what you're doing and not let your eyes just, zone out.
Mm-hmm.
So, Isaac, I got a question for you. We talked about rail balancing and narrow surface balancing. So if you were coaching me, because I'm still struggling with rail balancing, even though I'm much better, I feel as if my musculoskeletal system has honed in to the rail. I feel as if just my vestibular control, my reaction is better. But if you're going to coach me to get better on the rail specifically, what would you say I should focus on when I get up to start the movement, to start the activity? What should be my major focus? What's helped you?
So first I would want to know, can you mount the rail okay?
I'm still struggling, and I think that's from a mobility perspective. I still have very tight ankle complex. Mm-hmm. So getting on the rail for me, I have to do some adjustments, but I struggle. I'm able to do it. It's better than it was.
Yeah.
So
it's so cool that first I would split out the training into actually mounting the rail versus walking along the rail. So and train those two things. They may be trained in the same day, but view them as two different scales.
You know what? That's crazy because I actually did some this morning. I practiced going from a split squat to a 4-point position on the rail and back, and then I practiced going from a split squat to standing on one leg on the rail. So I did break it down. But I guess are you keeping your heel?
Are you keeping your heels higher than the ball of your foot on the rail when you do that?
Not purposely, because when I go into my split squat to a standing position, I try to get my heel on the rail.
So the ball of your foot on the rail is probably the best idea. And then keeping your heel above the ball of the foot is, I think, essential. I haven't trained anybody on that yet that doesn't benefit from that.
Okay.
And then, of course, as you body weight transfer, reaching, deciding what hand you're gonna, because you're basically doing like a tripod get up onto the rail, yeah.
I'm more successful with a what's it called? Straddle sit get up.
Interesting. Okay, so you're starting in like a quad contralateral crawl position.
Yeah. When I mount it, I go to a straddle sit, and then I come to a split squat.
Okay.
It's just, for me, it's I have better control. I guess I lack the rotary control to do a tripod get up at this point. I can do it that way, but I feel more comfortable doing a straddle sit get up.
So then, are you making sure that you are starting in the contralateral position with a long side and a short side?
Yes. And
then your back foot, do you tuck your back toes first, or your front, the toes that are closest to on the short side, I guess I should say?
Usually the short side toes.
So I like to keep that front ankle hooked, tuck my back toes, and then push myself, literally shift my pelvic floor over my back heel.
Okay.
And really keep my knees very wide.
Okay.
And so I'm like pushing the rail away with my hands, and my pelvic floor is over. The pelvic floor, I think, is essential to think about during balance work. Over my back heel.
Okay.
and
All right.
then arrange the front foot so that it still applies. The heel should be higher than the ball of the foot, but in that case, it's going to be naturally anyway.
Okay. So when you're in a standing position, let's say you get up on a single leg standing rail. What I found that's helped me is joint alignment. If you're flexed too much, if you're extended too much, if you're abducted too much, it throws everything off. So I found that getting the proper joint alignment kind of locks everything into place. Mm-hmm. That's what helped me a lot as far as maintaining the static stand.
Yeah, about stacking the weights. Like, where's your head?
Yeah.
Where are your shoulders?
And if you just throw your shoulders off, 3 inches in one direction, it throws. I'm off the rail. It's like, man, that's very important.
So that's a really interesting thing that I've learned with training balancing so much. As we've been working through this certification. Like, for a long time I've been working with people on boards, students on just the 2x4s.
Yeah. So
here, I want to get you guys' take on this because I have learned so much through this process. So when we first learn to balance just on a narrow surface like a 2x4, it's your typical sort of funambulism teaching, like place the ball of the foot, shift the center of gravity over the front foot, and it's sort of like, hey, do long division, go through the process, right? Because you need to get this. And even when you do that, when people first start balancing, they're kind of like all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm. But as I was when I first started too.
Same,
yeah,
right?
same,
And it even kind of surprises them. And for our listeners, for people who are listening, it's kind of crazy to just practice standing with one foot in front of the other with your front foot heel touching your big toe and your second toe of the back foot. Just standing like that is hard for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So here's the crazy thing. I've noticed that when people are that they're going through the Chinese noodle thing because they're just all over the place.
Yeah.
They're surprised at how hard that is, but we keep doing it, and we do it over and over and over again. And then pretty soon they come in for a class or a session, and they go along that board without hardly thinking. They may lose their center of gravity, but they pull it back really fast. Have you noticed that with your students? Like you could be sloppy later on and still nail it.
Yeah, I haven't really paid that close of attention, I guess, to it. I use 2x4s in my practice mainly with elderly people that just have a hard time with any sort of balance. So I haven't really done any, I guess you could say, advanced balance training with people.
Mm-hmm.
But you mean like someone's walking along and they lose their balance and then they flip their body, tweak it back to like if they're losing to the left, they tweak it back to the right and catch their balance again? You mean that?
Right. So what the principle that I've learned from working with people like that is at first they've got to go through the process carefully and mindfully, paying attention to be able to lock it in. But eventually, they don't have to put so much attention on it, and their body just figures it out.
Yeah, isn't that called unconscious competence in the movement?
There we go.
And I think part of it is becoming confident that you can recover from a fall. I think there's a thing you're talking about too. There's that, but it's like people are used to falling. They lose their balance a little bit. So at first they're like, oh crap, I got to step on the ground. Then you got to learn that you can actually fight to stay on. I think there's that part too. And unless I'm mistaken, I think that's different and independent, but also important to what you're saying. There's the body learning to hold, but there's also our animal self learning that we can recover from a fall and stay on the board and becoming confident with that.
The nervous system's a pretty amazing, if you could say, organ. It's just, I'm still trying to figure it out. It's
everybody is. No one knows it yet.
It's such a, it's like this supercomputer in your body. You have to always update. It's pretty crazy.
So that unconscious competence thing is really awesome, because what in MoveNet, of course, they teach, there's, how does it go, unconscious incompetence, and then you've got the next
conscious incompetence,
right?
Conscious competence, and then unconscious competence.
Or the way I like to put it is, first you're stupid and you don't know it. Then you realize you're stupid. Then you learn how to do something, and then you can do it by habit without knowing.
Knowing.
Having started from square one with my MoveNet practice, I'm into year 3 now. I do see that happening. It's happened to me. I've become unconsciously competent with, a power forward jump onto a balanced surface. I can just do it without thinking about it. It's crazy. I did some this morning, actually, onto a rock, and I had no problem sticking the landing.
It's awesome.
A year ago, I'd sit there and think about it and practice it, and now it just flows out of me. It's crazy how that's so true.
Yeah.
So understanding the neurology there is at least talking about it is really worth it, because it's helps you appreciate what's going on. Because what they think is happening is, when you first start learning those types of movement, you're learning them with the cerebral cortex, the outside of the brain, right? And you're really having to think, and and then eventually the movement pattern sinks deeper. Now we're talking basal ganglia, deeper structures in the brain,
and into your reflexive.
Yeah, well, it's more like a reflex, right? You just do it. And I've watched that process in people for years and been fascinated with it and walked them through it. But balancing is interesting, because that has taught me that, I'm in the business of alignment. I help people come in, and I'm like, okay, let's look at, how does your rib cage relate to your hips? How do your shoulder girdles sit on your rib cage, for the purpose of helping people find a better relationship with gravity. The interesting thing is, I can take them through a whole series. In our work, it's called the 12 series, and so other methods a 10 series, and we get them all lined up nice and good, right? They're feeling amazing at the end of that. They go away for a year, they come back, and I put them in front of the mirror, and I don't say this to them, but I'm like, what happened? It's like, what? What? And so, and I will ask people at that, how are you feeling? Great. I felt great. But that's the thing. I've learned through balancing that you can train yourself to afford misalignment. And then you're because a body then knows, okay, you're out of alignment, but I know how to find your best relationship with gravity in an instant, because I've trained that in. So that's, to me, the process that's happening. Yes, the unconscious incompetence. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely learning with the cerebral cortex, and then getting, deeper patterns grooved into the nervous system. However, there's more, that there is a piece there with finding the center of gravity, and just intuitively knowing that and being able to find that really fast. That's incredible to watch a body do that, which means then that somebody can walk on a narrow surface and not think about it so much, and they just can self-correct quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, Isaac, how long does it take the human body to actually develop those changes, the nervous system to develop those changes? What have you seen in your practice? Like, okay, let's say somebody comes in for a session.
Yeah.
You notice a dysfunctional alignment, dysfunctional structure, dysfunctional movement pattern. You train them, you show them the way, you have them use their cerebral cortex to understand what their deficit is. How long would you say it takes the average person to make these changes in their bodies to, I guess, solidify the change?
Mm-hmm. So I see, everybody's different. Obviously, every body is different, but I can see somebody change in one session.
I guess the question I want to ask is, does the change stay there? When they come in next time, do they still have the same changes, or do they revert to their old ways?
I think they always revert. I think we always revert to our oldest patterns. But within 3-4 sessions, I think people, hour-long sessions, and I'm not saying we're doing balancing work that entire time. They are acquiring real skill, and that's pretty much across the board. And
That's awesome.
I mean, I don't know. That's what I've seen.
Does that be 3 or 4 sessions over 3 or 4 weeks, or what?
That's a really good question. So yeah, I would think weekly training. Yeah.
It's just, the question I've always pondered is, how long does it, what type of frequency, what type of duration, how long does it actually take to change someone's nervous system permanently? That's what, I guess it depends on compliance with what you give them. There's some things I do in my practice where I can do some things and you can see an immediate result. You can typically attribute that to the nervous system changing, but does the change stay there? And how long does it take to actually make a permanent change?
Yeah, and I think every body is different. Are we talking manual work, movement training, or combination?
Combination, whatever your goal is. When I first got on 2x4 and I felt comfortable walking back and forth on it, I would get on it again 2 days later and I couldn't do it. I still have to do the initiate the cerebral cortex and really consciously think about my incompetence to correct it. And now I can get on the thing with my eyes closed and do it, 10 times back and forth without even thinking about it. So, I'm just wondering how long it took my body to make that adjustment permanently.
I think there's research on that about, you got to look into the myelin and the myelin sheath and neurons that fire together, wire together, and how long it takes for that to become efficient. There's some book, I don't remember, I have to think of which book this was, where they talked about some of that. I think it was a book about the brain and thinking, but they talked about how when you myelinate a sheath, first nerves that fire together wire together, then it gets myelinated, it takes a while, but then I forgot the 3 things. I had that memorized at one time, but it makes the signal faster and more efficient. I think there's something else. So the signal can travel from one place to the other quicker. There's less lost. But then the time it takes is going to depend partly not just on the training and the person, but sleep and diet. Some of that stuff, I think, if I remember right, that's based on cholesterol. You got a proper cholesterol in your diet or in your body for some of these molecules to be made. So if someone has some problem, limited. Or if they don't get enough sleep, it's going to affect how long it takes.
Yeah. So here's another analogy too. Think about growing up as a child and learning how to ride a bike. I remember it took me probably 3 months. And, there's times I remember this guy was teaching me and he'd be next to me and I'd fall off. But once I got it, I got that neurological change. And it's weird because I've ridden a bike and I don't know how long, but I guarantee I can jump on a bike now and ride for, 5 miles, no problem. So that's the stuff that I ponder.
And part of what I think you're trying to tease out too is as a practitioner, right, or as a teacher, because it can be very frustrating to
you're right.
somebody, and you do want to know because you want to help people and you want them to see a change. And really, I think I would say I have 3 answers to that. And the first answer is we don't know and nobody really does. And the second answer,
and it depends on age and nutritional health status.
Sleep, exactly. Yeah. How they developed. Did you crawl? How do you eat? How do you move every day? The second answer involves a game. So we're talking about the nervous system here. This is actually Tom Callan, if you know his work, talks about a lot. It's amazing. So he says he plays this game with some of his, or has with his patients or his students. He'll say, I'll tell you what, I want you to put 2 fingers up, a right finger and a left finger, and I'm going to stand right in front of you. And I'm going to tell you to wiggle your right finger, or I'm going to tell you to wiggle your left finger, and I want you to do that. So he does this, okay, right finger, boom, boom, they move it. Left finger, boom, boom, they move it. And he'll say, okay, so how long do you think that took you? And he says usually the answer is like a second. But really, if you think about it and you play that game with somebody, you can probably get them down to about a nanosecond, right? I mean, it's fast. It's really fast. So his point is this. You're telling me that our common understanding of a neuron is that you have a signal, and it creates a chemical change within a cell, and then that goes across a gap. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's back up. You're saying that our current understanding is I say something, it travels through space to your ear, goes through some specialized organs in order to stimulate some neurons, and then those neurons talk to other neurons through this electrochemical process, and all that's happening all the way to your finger in that amount of time. And we know the nervous system, what does it travel? They've measured it, and they say, anyway, how many miles per second? I mean, it's impossible. It's impossible to say that, that is actually what's happening through the nervous system. So my reason for bringing that up is we talk about neural learning and how long does it take to learn? But we don't even understand the nervous system. I can tell you to move we're saying that this is the process that happens, but there's no way that is the whole explanation there. So
this is
that's my second
deep.
We don't know how fast, and if we start to parse out, like, okay, nervous system takes this long, and the fascia takes this long, and the muscle, then we're back into that Descartes sort of idea of really separating parts of a body and blah blah blah. And the third answer is this: as a practitioner, I think it's really, really important to see progress in little tiny details. And that happens instantly. I'm working with somebody, and in the stance phase, the hip is traveling over the right foot being the stance phase, and the arch drops nicely toward the ground, and the hip raises, and those two things are married in their movement now. And they don't know it, but that's progress. Because when they came in before, as they traveled over that hip, it wasn't going up, and the foot wasn't dropping down. I think that the more knowledge you have as a practitioner and the more nuance you get in your observation, that a practitioner will realize change happens really fast.
And in my practice, I definitely experience those moments with my patients, and I make sure to have them be aware of it too, because it not only it gives positive reinforcement to their work, and as much as emotion has to play a big role in neurodevelopment and progress. At least that's what I found.
Yep. Mindfulness.
Yeah, exactly.
Essential.
Mindfulness. Yeah. And,
it's like you shine a light on this little piece of progress, and then they can hold on to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and having the technique you taught them and have them find a positive benefit from it, they're more likely to continue with it and further their gains that way.
Yeah.
And it helps as in all kinds of ways, just connecting human to human and letting them put things in more context to see that you had problems with stuff before too. Because sometimes they get all worried, like, because me being the teacher, I can do it and I can make it look so effortless and it's so easy. And some people think, well, they should be able to do that too. No, I had trouble like this too. I didn't get here. This is what I used to do. Here's a story about one thing. No, we're the same. So you're doing this stuff. Just chill out and quit beating yourself up and just keep at it and you'll get there. And I'll tell stories about how pathetic I was at some stuff before. And it's like, unfortunately, I don't even have to make up stuff up. I can just be honest and tell some of the sad truth. And,
I think there's a balance there, though, because I'm not disagreeing with you at all, because I do that to some degree. But as a practitioner, I think you have to be very careful with that, because there is the placebo effect and the pressure, the social pressure of training under an expert. And I think that is a healthy pressure sometimes. Like, for example, I learned that in MoveNet 3. Did you notice how our instructor, Danny Clark, he demonstrated almost everything and got it on the first try?
Yeah, I definitely noticed that. And, he just made it look, he just flowed out of him.
Amazing.
I didn't see him warm up. I didn't see him do any
But he also
specific,
talked about,
he just jumped up there and did it. It was crazy.
but he also talked about trouble he had before.
Yes. And at the beginning of our training, he said, we're here to grow too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
However, he didn't focus on that in himself. He was quiet about himself through most of the training.
Well, yeah, of course, you don't go talking about it all the time like a goofball. You got to focus on the other person. It's about them. You just have to do it like anything else, smartly and mindfully, as to when they need it and when. Just like you don't talk about your failures all the time. You demonstrate it, and you just do it a little bit, and the focus is going to be on showing them what to do and letting them practice and building up.
And to that
giving them
point,
encouragement. Yeah.
one of my strongest memories of that training is when we were at the end. So we had just done the breath hold, and he said, "We just got one more thing. We're going up that mountain," and we're all going.
They're like, what? Really?
Now we got a mountain. We've been out here 5 hours. No, yeah. No shirt,
man, I'll never
water.
forget that day. Gosh.
Yeah. So, but it was.
And folks, when we got to the top of the mountain, I found some bobcat scat, and that just rocked my world. Hell yeah! People who are naturalists will know. People who are animal lovers and know that stuff. You get to this place that's up at the top of this thing, and to find this bobcat scat up there was like freaking, man, that just made my day. Made my month.
I do remember that, Mike, and
yes.
I remember just sitting there looking at the incredible scenery.
And I'm looking at the
I think
scat.
I let out a big howl like a werewolf or something. It was great.
But
yeah,
anyway.
and so what I remember of that is, to staying on topic of what we were talking about, no, I'm just saying, to your point, I was getting to the very top. Do you remember how hard that was, trying to figure out handholds and footholds at the very top? You don't remember that?
Oh yeah,
I do. In fact, a lot of the students had already summited, and they were going, hey, they were telling me, hey, Isaac, watch out for that cactus, and put your hand there and put. Danny, do you know what he was doing? He was in this nice squat at the very top, staying quiet and not getting in my process.
Mm-hmm.
And he did that multiple times during that training, where he was just quiet and let the student work through the process. And he would give some instruction, but very little after the skill had been, and in that situation, it wasn't a particular skill we were working on. But I just love that as a trainer. I learned that from him. It's like sometimes
just get out of the way. Just
get out
let
of
the person figure it. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I do a lot.
Figure it out.
Being an academic teacher, I've learned that a long time ago. Yeah. I do that too, academically.
If I remember,
if you notice, people make a mistake and they're going to correct themselves. So why jump on them about it when you know that they could correct it? I've seen that. I see a student working a math problem. They make a mistake. I don't need to jump on them. So they're all on edge about, oh my God, am I doing everything this right? They'll catch their mistake. They work it out. I go, okay, look, check it over again. Did you make any mistakes? Whoa, they can figure it out themselves. Yeah. It's an important thing for patience and not freaking someone out, letting them direct it from inside instead of having it be externally driven all the time. Do this, do that. Or one thing I like in regard to kids that reminded me of is recommendations not to say be careful, which is meaningless and just scares them. Be careful, be careful. Well, no squat. Right. What is a kid doing? Trying to get hurt? Not. If they're doing something, the thing to think of, which they don't know to do because they're not old enough yet, is to say, how are you going to climb that tree? How are you going to get down? That's a good handhold, or you picked a good position to go up. Things like that. And just kind of watch, give some recommendations when necessary, or ask before they go up, are there any broken branches? Where are the branches you want to hold? Because a kid, when they're young, they're not going to think ahead too much. They just jump into the tree. But things like that are much better at helping someone learn and be internally driven.
You could probably even argue that over-instruction might impede somebody's learning ability.
Yep.
Because they get confused.
Yeah.
And I have a crazy story. And actually, after this, I probably got to go. But when I was a physical therapy student, my first rotation, it was just in acute care. And we just did basic mobility, gait trainings, and just teaching people how to get out of the bed properly and safely so they can go home safely. So, and I was a 22-year-old nervous student, and I remember one of the first patients I saw was a geriatric patient who, didn't have, she was mildly demented, but could definitely understand instruction. And she was kind of hard of hearing. So I just remember getting this patient to the side of the bed and instructing them in certain movement procedures and walking. And I just kept almost yelling at her continuously for the entire 8 minutes. And we got done. And she just seemed like the patient was just kind of hesitant to do anything. And my clinical instructor pulls me aside and says, Nick, you need to learn to shut up and just let the natural process take over. Yeah. So you said you over-instructed that person. You said too much and you confused them and probably almost intimidated them. And I'll never forget that. And since then, I've learned just to kind of just do the basic just enough and let the body's own intuition take over of who you're instructing. So it's a great lesson for anybody listening to this that is a teacher. Might be something to think about when you're trying to instruct somebody in a certain, exercise or movement technique.
Or anything, even academically or whatever.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Cooking, piano.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, I got to run. I got some kiddos upstairs.
Thanks,
probably. Hey, it's good. Hey, Isaac, good to see you, man. Hope you're
Likewise.
doing well. And Mike,
And
hopefully
Nick,
we'll talk
I got
soon.
some ideas about the balancing on a bar. I'll
Okay.
talk about. Do you want to hear it now, or you want to just listen later?
I'll listen later, and
Good.
because that's something I'm still working on. But I'm getting better, man. I'm getting better. I can stand the bar for about a minute and a half now without falling off. So,
Nice.
So I have some ideas, and maybe this is stuff I do in that kind of situation.
And
but,
you know what I find? I find myself getting fatigued. Fatigued. It's
yeah.
crazy. So I'm not sure if I
Yeah.
have it's like almost, I'm not sure if it's a muscular thing or a neuromuscular thing, or it's just my nervous system getting tired. It's crazy.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Could be.
So,
Maybe your foot's getting tired, but your brain's making it seem like your hip's getting tired, so you come off. Interesting how that works. I don't know.
It's probably another mental block I have.
Maybe. Yeah. Cool. All right.
Anyway,
Thanks,
guys.
Matt.
Take care,
Happy
man.
moving.
Talk to you
Cool.
soon. Hopefully. Yeah, you too.
Yeah.
Take care,
All
guys.
right.
See you
See ya.
later. Bye-bye.
All right. So I'll talk about them things quickly.
Yeah.
You had given some good recommendations, of course, but I'd say, because, of course, we all deal with that when we're learning a new skill, how we're going to if we want something that we want to accomplish, we don't just keep banging our head against it trying to do the same thing. We need to see what the foundations are. That's a general principle here for people to learn about, not just fitness training, but teaching math, teaching physics, teaching piano.
Right.
You got to have that foundation and see what's connected to the skill.
Yeah. And I go ahead. Sorry.
Analyze and synthesize. So one thing.
Say that last part again. I'm sorry, I didn't.
Analyze and synthesize.
Yeah.
That's one thing lost in our culture. People think science, modern science, is about reductionism. And they say certain things about Western science and they don't understand it at all because they haven't really looked at, or entirely, I should say, not at all. It's overdone. But they have some misunderstandings about it because they haven't looked at the history of it. Ancient Greeks who started science, Western science, were big on analysis and synthesis. It was their whole thing. And that's what some people did. Galileo or Newton didn't just reduce, I mean, it's also known as the grand synthesis. He connected terrestrial and celestial mechanics. It's a synthesis, not just an analysis. Darwin made a grand synthesis. Connected things. It's what good philosophy and good science and conceptualization are about. Connecting.
So tie that into movement for me then, like the balancing work.
So, we want to look at foundations and connect things to the big picture. So, we want to look at other things than balancing that'll help us with this. And we want to see some foundations of balancing on the bar. Or look at, a good example would be the way people look at running a lot. If we're going to run, we just run. It's about the legs. No, you got to connect it to the core. It's about the core. Yeah. Or if you want to practice, if you want to learn to run better, you got to practice when you're running. My left foot is on the ground. My right foot comes up. There's that time there where I have to have good balance and keep my hip up while I'm on my left leg. Otherwise, if you don't have good balance, you lose efficiency. So you got to see, what are the fundamentals of a skill? What is running made up of? It's made up of one thing, of balance, one-legged balance. Because running, when you really define it properly, is one-legged sequential jumping. That's what running is.
Yeah, yeah. That actually ties in with the way that I view MoveNat, because I view MoveNat as integrative movement training.
Yeah.
And I also teach developmental movement training and corrective movement teaching. Mm-hmm. And I think those three levels of teaching really are about synthesizing the motor learning.
Yeah.
Developmental work is part of MoveNat, but I think you could train that separately, like through Feldenkrais work or Alexander technique, or just groundwork, crawling, rolling, scooting. All the baby movements, reaching, grabbing, but really looking at early reflexes, things like that. Some of your get-ups are developmental in nature. Mm-hmm. And then corrective would be like what you're talking about. Like, okay, so your single leg work, being on a single leg for you is difficult, both in running and in mounting a bar through a tripod get up. So let's work, correctively. What's switched on, what's switched off. This is where it gets super nerdy, and you can get lost in the weeds really easily. But I think we quickly need to move from that corrective type. Hey, glute med on the right is, not switching on when it needs to switch on. We need to move from that very quickly into integrative work, where it's like, because it makes it useful. And the integrative work is like, well, how do I use that? And MoveNat is full of that synthesis movement.
Yeah, it's one thing I love about it.
Yeah, same.
So one thing, before we want to balance on a bar, I'd say be able to do it on 2x4 and on the ground. So, and I even still do this. It's not like, whoa, I'm Mr. Advanced. I'm on like this little bar all the time. Stand on the ground on one leg and try to be there for 30 seconds, in a minute, in 3 minutes, in 5. Because if you can't stand on one leg on the ground for 3 minutes, you can't do it on a 2x4 or a bar.
Right.
So start on the ground, be able to balance on one leg for a few minutes, and even practice, because on a bar, you got to catch your balance until you get like super good at it, where you can just stand there and hold like a yoga position or whatever, the little arm thing, like leg up and a little circle in front, until you can do that with your eyes closed for like an hour on the bar, you're going to be losing your balance. So when you're on one leg, practice standing there kind of straight, but then lean to the left. When you're on your left leg, lean to the right on your left leg, move your arms and legs around, because that's what you got to do to practice balance. And you're going to have to do that on the 2x4 on the bar. And then on your right leg, be able to balance for a few minutes, work your way up to it. Then you can do that on the 2x4, which should be pretty easy after you're on the ground. And then you can go onto the bar. And that'll help work on getting the nervous system set, start it firing and wiring, start the myelination going on. That it's kind of cool to talk about, but no one really cares because you don't really need to know about that in the real world. Just like no monkey or cougar or whatever ever knows about that, but they're still good at it, or cat. It'll happen. But just practice balancing, and you got the habit that'll develop. Then you can take it more easily to the bar because you'll be more ready. And that'll help work on hip strength, hip alignment, getting hip in the right place, getting the legs strengthened to hold yourself up for that long. And then one thing you were saying, Isaac, with the heel, someone can experiment just on a 2x4 first, and then on a bar, try see how easy it is to balance when you have your heel below the ball of your foot on a 2x4, or then on a bar. Then see what if my heel and the ball of the foot are level.
You're side facing the surface of support, then, right? So
yeah. So, like, if I put my arms out, it'd be parallel to the bar.
Yeah.
If I have them out to the side, to be clear to folks, and if I put them out in front of me, kind of following where my eyes would go if we're looking straight ahead of us, they'd be perpendicular to the bar, something like that. Arms out to the side, they're parallel to the bar. My feet are perpendicular, and like move your heels in different positions and see how easy it is to balance. What is it when my heels are up? What is it when they're level? What is it when they're down? Experiment like that to help you see the value of it and learn these different positions. And then one thing that might help, another thing, a third, on if you go from side straddle to getting on the bar, I think you got to go through a tripod. So I'd say get in hand, foot on the ground, and practice putting left arm, right leg up in the air, and holding hand foot or knee foot first, and then hand foot, and then right arm forward, left leg back, hold hand foot, to develop the core more, and then take that onto a 2x4. So what if you're side straddle, you go forward, you got to get into like a hand foot, right? So that needs to be set solid, and you'd be able to hold that for a while if that's going to be stable. Otherwise, you're trying to go from straddle to standing up. You're trying to go from maybe a stable position to another position that's not so stable, but if there's instability in there, you're going to fall.
Yeah.
We need to get that hand foot stable and confident. So do it on the ground. Work on holding a hand foot on a 2x4 for a while. And then take it on the bar. Try to hold a hand foot on a bar. And then maybe try to lift up one limb up, get a hand foot on the bar, lift up your right hand, put it back, lift up your left, put it back, your feet.
Yep.
See if you can do right hand, left leg, stuff like that. And that's just good stuff to work with on its own.
And I find that acquiring a skill like that, Nick mentioned a tired nervous system, and balancing really tires out the nervous system quick. And I'm saying the nervous system, I don't even know if that's it. I don't even know really if that's accurate. It's just it's a feeling of tiredness, like a mental tiredness, from just trying to balance for 3 minutes. I mean, that is really tough on your mindset, I guess. So I think in some of these more I'm going to use the word high level skills. I don't know if that's fair, but it's helpful to go, I'm going to do this 10 times, and no matter how I look, I'm just going to practice 10 times in a row. I'm either going to send it or I'm not, but I'm going to practice 10, and then I'm going to go do something else, and then I'm going to come back and do another set of 10. And working in that's helped me with all of my training. Yeah. And then integrate it. Like, in MoveNet, we always do an integration, what do we say, an integration process at the end, or an integration sequence, where it's like, now you put all those skills together and play. That's where it becomes more playful. But I think in the actual trying to acquire a skill, it's helpful to go, I'm going to do this 10 times, and no matter what the result is, or I'm going to stay up on this rail from this point to this point, and then turn around and go from that point to that point, and I'm going to try that 10 times whether I fall or not.
And one thing that'll help for walking on a bar or something like that, or on a 2x4, is being okay. Yeah, like if you pick 2 points, I'm going to go from here to here and back. Even if you come off, just keep going. If you train yourself to like throw your arms up in the air and I got to start over, you're training yourself to do something. You're giving yourself a habit. You're not training yourself to keep going on the bar. So you're walking on the bar, you step off, step back on, and keep going.
It's
then,
like the Buddhist. I think it's a Buddhist. Is it a word? I guess word. Shenpa. Like we don't. That's when we imbue something with a lot of energy, right? So to me, when you imbue failure with a lot of energy, you just give failure. It becomes bigger and bigger. And so, yeah, I think that when you fall off the rail or you don't complete the skill, it's like staying in the process of that really important, and learning that if you zoom out, like when I was trying to learn my power ups, man. I failed so hundreds of times, literally hundreds of times. But the thing is, if I zoomed out and looked at my training over temporally over like a month or 2 months or 3 months, I'm like, oh wait, well now I'm getting my chest up there, but now I'm getting my chin over there. Now my elbows are going to it, so there is progress. And so that helps me stay in the flow and not give failure too much shenpa, too much energy. And on a bar too, on a rail, I think it's really helpful. Yeah, the vision thing and not zoning out is, I think, super, super helpful. It's easy just to let your eyes go blurry. And I think, and then also, and here's another thing I learned from that rail work, actually visualizing finishing the skill, like really concentrating on, I'm going to make it to the end of that rail, or visualizing what on the pop-up, this is what it's going to look like at the end. Visualizing success is, and I'm not talking about the, mind over matter type thing. I'm like literally visualize success. And that helps in training too.
Yeah, definitely. Thinking about mentally what it would take to do it right. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you got to go soon, or?
Yeah, I've got.
Are we past time already?
I could spend 10 more minutes, but
okay.
That's about all I got.
Cool. So, is there anything particular you wanted to talk about or mention to folks? Any topic or? No.
Well, I don't. Are your listeners? I mean, as far as MoveNet is concerned, is that?
No, more general, broader audience.
Broader audience. Yeah, I think reconnecting with if you're not moving in nature, is so important. I heard your interview with the other part of our crowd.
Cool.
And talking about the advantages of moving in nature. I think if here's one thing I'm learning. With a discipline, you never want to romanticize a discipline, because if you romanticize a discipline, it's easy to feel inadequate. And here's what I mean by that. People listening might hear some of these skills, or even the word or MoveNet, and think, yeah, that's great. Tomorrow I'm gonna go outside and walk in the grass, but they may not continue to feel inspired if they romanticize the discipline, because you bump into limits real fast with any discipline. And if you have romanticized whatever discipline it is, then you can feel inadequate and feel disappointed and bump into those limits and not continue to roll. And so it's a better idea to go, like when I look at the way Danny Clark or one of the core moves, oh my goodness. It's incredible. It's incredible. But they worked hard for that.
Yeah.
And they've trained hard for that. And they don't have, I may see clips where they look amazing. I can't romanticize that, because I'm sure there's many times when their movement isn't so great.
Yeah.
Either now, or if we go back in history, it may have been, not so great. You got to start somewhere. And so I guess if we were saying in a broader audience, whatever discipline, if we're talking about MoveNat, if we're talking about a meditation practice, if we're talking about science, an aspect of science, if you just don't romanticize the discipline, because that you'll just make yourself feel so inadequate. And as soon as you bump into a limit, you lose inspiration, and then you lose momentum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or if you do romanticize it, do it in a different way and be sensible about it. Be reasonable about your romanticism.
Yeah,
Romantic realism. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just like humility is huge with any practice.
Yeah. Yeah, and so what I like to do in some videos is put in failures sometimes.
Yep.
It's like, because you can make it be good at it, and you make it look effortless, but you also make mistakes.
Totally.
So, I can do step-ups. I can get in this, I found this place where there's some erosion, kind of like along this trail. You might say it's kind of like a ditch natural ditch out of nowhere. And so it's like maybe a 2-foot step up, another place where it's like 1.5 feet. I can get down in the little ditch and have one leg down there and one leg up on the top, about 1.5 feet, 2 feet higher, and step up. And
nice.
I use a railroad tie on my shoulder.
Yep.
And it's easy, but one day I felt kind of tired and wasn't sure if I should do it, and it turned out, because I stepped up, came down. I don't remember if it was on my right or left shoulder. And I think it was on my left. I don't know, but maybe it was on my right shoulder. My right leg's up. I step up, and I'm kind of out of it that day and a little tired because I've been working out. And I step back down, and I twist my ankle. And the weight falls off because I lose my balance. I kind of threw it off. But I wish I had it on video because it happens. But, it's a good thing with the MoveNat training that I didn't get hurt. We work on mobility and mindfulness and reaction. So I kind of twist my ankle, but no big deal. Like zero residual that day or the next day. I'm still moving because I can catch myself. I know what to do. I can react. I've got the mobility in my ankle, and I can throw the log off and not fall and get hurt. But it happens. We make mistakes. Or
Sure.
And I got a video I haven't put out yet on jumping 3 or 5 feet, landing on this root that maybe there's an inch on top, but it's kind of oblong, and I land on it. But then there's the one weird thing that happens every now and then, and I land on it, and I had too much horizontal velocity. I slip off and fall on my butt, and my feet go down the thing. I can land on that thing, bot, over 100 times in a row.
Yep.
Not every time am I sticking it, but I land on it. But
cool.
There's the one thing you got to be prepared for, where you're gonna slip.
And I'm not. This is something I think a lot of people think about is the disadvantages of social media and in that people do videos where it's oh, that's really cool. I want to do that, But and some people are good about posting their failures too. But in MoveNat, I just wish we could look at some of ourselves on those videos, each other on those videos, and have the reaction of, "Wow, humans! Look what humans can do. It's amazing." But unfortunately, there's a piece of that pulls on our inadequacy, our feelings of inadequacy, and things like that. I think we need to be very, very careful with that on both ends, both as a viewer and as a poster.
Yeah. Be encouraging, know where it comes from.
Right.
And one thing, learning more biology and ecology and history and all that, I've come to the conclusion and have started saying, I might talk about some people talk with people that I'm training or talk to people I know, and it's okay, I'm doing it, but it isn't me. The reason I can do this is because of the heritage of our ancestors. Without that, it's not going to happen. I'm just putting into practice, and I'm thankful for the heritage of our ancestors because they're the badasses that made possible what I can do. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do it at all.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that. Yeah, the support that we get from I don't like the term genetics anymore, but the support we get from our inheritance, from our ancestors, incredible. And the support we get from our teachers, incredible. I mean, you're right. I'm with you. I couldn't do, and what I do is not amazing. You know, I'm just a 40-something-year-old guy trying to do his best and move in nature and, you know, and teach other people to do the same. But I couldn't do it without those things you're talking about. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And then,
fantastic.
You know, some people get all arrogant, like, oh, I can do all this stuff. I'm like Mr. or Mrs. Best in the world and all this stuff. It's like, I'm like super special and I'm like me. Not. It's like, get over yourself. You owe it to your ancestors. You know, you didn't do it. They did it. Okay, you can do some stuff and you should appreciate that, but don't take it out of context. Don't blow it out of proportion. Be real about it.
Mm-hmm. Hard to do when you impress yourself.
Yeah. Some people.
But there again, it's like, how much energy do you give the skill? The when you send it, how much energy do you give that? You know, I mean, there's a balance. Praise and blame are all the same, right? So I mean, when I fail, that's still motor learning. When I send it, that's still motor learning.
Yeah, and I like it when I fail. It teaches me something. I find it very important. I love it.
Yeah, it's good. There's a lot to learn from it.
Like I like it when I'm not paying enough attention as I should, and I'm out on the trail running, doing a barefoot run, and there's some bike trails I run on, and sometimes there might have been a tree in the trail, and someone trims it down. Yeah, but they don't trim it all the way below soil you're at. And it happened recently. I was in kind of autopilot, which I don't usually do. I was kind of going along, looking over to the side in autopilot, bam, right on my face. I got one of my toes is like the skin's torn on it, and I'll have to show you a picture. It's like, I took a picture. It's kind of funny. It's like blood splat. You get all these little dots of blood going back in my foot, and people would see it, and because they're not used to like getting hurt, they'd freak out. But it's like, it's not a big deal. It's a minor thing. I just kept going. But
that's another part of the training, right? Like you said earlier, distinguishing between pain and discomfort, and sometimes injury comes. Yeah. And you know, if we do need to take risks in this kind of training, controlled risks, and sometimes that leads to a little trip up. You know, I just was training somebody on a falling sequence, balancing on a rail and falling, and she hit her hip. The rail was quite low, and we were trying to eliminate risk. But she swung under, and when you practice that balancing to a leg hook, arm hook fall, you can get some momentum going. And she swung under and hit her hip. And, you know, we worked through this week actually going, you know, what is injury in this case? She thought she broke something. She did not break anything. It happened that, and since I do body work, it was easy to walk her through this. You know, it happened that her sacrum and lumbar spine were already pretty out of alignment. But as soon as we got those things working, and the pain went away immediately. Cool. So, yeah, it was a quote injury, but you know, I don't want to sound like I don't respect the process of injury, or that I want to hurt people, but it's kind of like, you know, what's the big deal? When we fell down as kids all the time, all the time. Yeah. I mean, and it wasn't a big deal. And people will make the excuse, well, now I'm older and more fragile. And are you really, or are we just not used to those kind of, you know, bumps and bruises? And hey, what's the big deal with a bruise? I mean, it's a bruise. Yeah. You know, and your feet got torn up a little bit. You know, you recovered. Yeah,
and it's a good lesson to pay attention. It's a reminder. Hey,
pay attention.
No matter where we are in the world, whether we're sitting down, we're in a mall, walking around, people driving, pay attention. Don't go into autopilot.
Yep. And you didn't say be careful. You said pay attention.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah.
Yep.
Funny. Good point. Hadn't even thought
That's
of
a
that.
good takeaway. Pay attention.
Yeah.
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 Well, Michael, thank you very much.
Thank you. Awesome.
I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah. Great discussion.
Letting us come on your show.
Any last words for the folks?
Yeah, I don't think so. I love what you're doing, and
Thank you. Likewise.
and really, what you're teaching people is connecting to themselves and connecting to their world, and then connecting the two, right? Our earth and ourselves, and that may sound kind of hippie-ish to people, but we live in a world that is this transhumanism thing is real. They are trying to I don't know who they are. Actually, I kind of do, but are trying to disconnect us from ourselves and from our earth, and that is dangerous stuff.
And it's not, just say it's not a conspiracy. People can look it up. It's on the record. If it's spoken by people, it's not a quote-unquote conspiracy theory. And besides, conspiracy is a valid concept. It's been around for a long time. You can look it up.
That's right.
These so-called conspiracy theories, quote-unquote, is entirely different than a conspiracy. It's too bad there's not a different term for it instead of conspiracy theory.
Could be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you conspire, that's dangerous business, and many people are conspiring.
Yeah. And it's been through human history, and you can see it's part of something. Because we're social animals, some people want prestige, more power, social power. They want to kind of control others. It's in human history. It's a perversion, mistake of human nature. Reason should be there to help us get along better and connect with each other in reality. And they're trying to pervert that process, make it not be about reality, but what they want. And it's in a lot of things through human history. It's nothing new. It's a principle that's gone on, and it's provided some of the ugliest times in human history. But it's stuff out there now. But yeah, this transhumanism stuff, wanting to make people partially robots or whatever. No, thank you.
No, thank you. Yep. I'd rather go outside and look at a plant. Yeah.
I'd rather be human and not be something else. And I want to be connected to reality.
Which means take off your Apple Watch and your Fitbit and just go walk and enjoy the process of walking. That's what I would enjoy the process, enjoy your bodies, and enjoy your earth. Yeah.
Use some of the technology, but don't overuse it. Be able to put it aside and have it serve you.
Yep.
Be able to be out in nature and enjoy it unencumbered, firsthand, direct.
It's a human right.
Yeah. And it's human nature. It's something we need to be healthy.
Yep.
But cool. Yeah. Did you want to continue on that one last thought, or good? Hope I didn't interrupt too much.
No. I think that's a good key takeaway there.
Cool. Be holistic. Be true to yourself. Be true to your nature. Be true to nature. Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, you, Isaac.
Michael.
My brother.
Okay.
Cool.
Have a good night.
You too. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Bye.